Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Russell. I'm 34 years old, and for over a decade I made a living in financial forensics, tracking digital fingerprints across accounts, networks, and databases. I'd helped banks catch insider theft, exposed employees siphoning funds, and shut down elaborate embezzlement schemes. You'd think someone like me would see it coming. But I didn't. Not when it was in my own house. Not when the person doing the stealing was my wife. Her name is Alicia. We'd been married 6 years when the cracks began to show, not in the walls of our house, but in the space between her words and her actions. It started subtly. Alicia would linger in the kitchen just a little too long when I came out of the shower. My wallet always found its way slightly out of place. Once or twice I thought maybe I had misplaced it myself. But then she started asking questions, too many, too technical. "Babe," she said once while slicing fruit, "how do you know if someone's stealing from a business account?" I remember pausing mid-step. "Why?" "Oh, just curious. I saw a TikTok about some girl catching her boyfriend with credit fraud." It sounded innocent, playful even. But I've worked long enough in this field to know curiosity is rarely innocent, especially when it's rehearsed. We lived in a gated community in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was my dream home, not hers. Alicia always wanted something grander. Her sister married a plastic surgeon. Her best friend from college posted photos from Santorini every summer. Meanwhile, I was the boring tech guy who preferred Thai takeout over steak tartare. I provided well. But it was never enough for Alicia. Still, I trusted her, until I noticed what I wasn't supposed to see. She started getting up at 3 a.m. At first, she said it was insomnia, that she was reading or scrolling Instagram. But one night I caught a faint glow downstairs and crept down to find her in my office. Not just in it, on my computer. With a USB stick. "Looking for vacation photos," she said quickly. Her voice was too casual, her hand too fast to minimize the window. She kissed my cheek and told me to go back to bed. I told myself not to overthink it. That was my first mistake. The second came a week later when I noticed a $500 charge to a high-end boutique in LA on my business account. I didn't make it. Alicia swore she didn't either. "Fraud maybe," she offered a little too quickly. "You should look into that." So I did. And what I found set everything in motion. The boutique purchase was real. It was in-store, time-stamped, geotagged, and captured on a security feed, because I pulled strings to get it. There she was, Alicia, standing at the register trying on a $3,000 coat, laughing with the sales clerk, using my card. She had driven to LA for a girls' spa weekend that never existed. The betrayal stung, but it wasn't just the money. It was the smirk she wore in that footage. She looked proud. That night, as she slept, I lay awake staring at the ceiling and asking myself one question. How deep does this go? I sat in my car for nearly 2 hours that morning. I had the security footage paused on my laptop screen. Alicia holding that coat, flipping her hair like she was the star of some luxury fashion ad, handing over my card like it belonged to her. And maybe in her mind it did. I felt numb. Not angry. Not yet. Just hollow. You know, when you work in financial security, you spend a lot of time catching strangers. Numbers don't lie, people do. But I never thought I'd have to turn my tools inward, into my own life, my own marriage. We built this life together. I stayed up late balancing our accounts. I made sacrifices. I drove an aging Corolla while Alicia got the new crossover SUV, because it's safer. I passed on promotions that required travel so I could be home more. And now she was draining me behind my back. The next few days were a haze. She went about her life like nothing was wrong, laughing on the phone with her sister, ordering a new set of throw pillows for the guest room like that was the priority. I couldn't sleep. Every time I looked at her, I felt like I was staring at a stranger. At dinner, I tried to ask her about LA again. "So, how was that spa weekend?" I asked gently. "Oh, exhausting," she laughed. "Vanessa talks too much and the facial was way overpriced. I actually saved you money by skipping the mani-pedi." I nearly choked on my drink. Saved me money? After charging thousands behind my back? That's when it really hit me. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even afraid. Because she thought I was too naive, or too in love, to ever catch her. And maybe until then she was right. I started watching her more carefully after that. I tracked every new charge, every location ping on our shared app. I noticed she'd become bolder, scheduling private shopping experiences, getting random deliveries from stores we couldn't afford. Then one night, I walked into our bedroom while she was asleep. Her phone buzzed. It was open to an email from a travel agency. First-class tickets. Paris. Book. In my gut, I knew she was planning something big, and I was just the ATM to fund it. The next morning, I drove out to a cliffside parking lot just outside of town. It overlooked the desert stretching for miles, the red sun cutting through the clouds like a warning light. I sat on the hood of my car, the wind sharp against my face, and I cried. For the first time in a long time, I broke. Not just because of the betrayal, but because I didn't recognize the woman I married. I thought of the early days, when we used to sit on the porch eating popsicles and talking about building a simple life together. When she said she didn't care about money, just honesty and love. When did that change? Or had it all been a lie from the start? Maybe I just wanted to believe in the idea of Alicia more than the reality. And the hardest part was knowing I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Not my friends, they thought we were the perfect couple. Not my parents, they loved her. And definitely not Alicia. Because if I opened up now, she'd know I was watching her. No. I needed to suffer in silence, for now. Because even though I was breaking, a small ember of clarity began to glow inside me. I didn't just want to know what she was doing. I wanted to know why. And then, when the truth came out, I would make sure she'd never forget the day she underestimated the man she married. By the time I started digging, I had one rule: don't confront her yet. I needed evidence. Cold, clean, irrefutable. So I used the same tools I'd spent years using on embezzlers and corporate thieves, but this time, my own house was the crime scene. I started with a honeypot card. A decoy debit card linked to a completely separate account, under a fake name monitored 24/7. I programmed it to flag every transaction in real time, with GPS tracking, merchant details, and immediate alerts. I placed it in my wallet, right where she could find it. And just like that, I waited. It didn't take long. 4 nights later, at 3:12 a.m., the card disappeared. The next morning, she made pancakes. She kissed my cheek and asked about my meeting. She even wore the green sundress she knew I loved. She was playing house. But in reality, she'd already used the card at a high-end department store. A $900 charge, luxury heels. Then came another. A private appointment at a designer boutique downtown. $2,700. Then a jewelry store. $4,300. She was moving fast. Too fast. And that's when I realized, this wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. This wasn't a slip. This was a pattern. I started digging into her emails. Our home network had logs of every device that had connected in the last 6 months, and thanks to a little digital forensics, I found old backups she thought were deleted. What I found made me nauseous. 3 years ago, she had taken a trip to London, told me it was with her sister Vanessa for a retreat. But according to her own email confirmations, she went alone. First class. Paid for with a card belonging to a woman named Marcia Kramer. Who the hell was that? I ran the name. Former co-worker of Alicia's. Lived in Tampa. Filed a police report 2 years ago about unauthorized credit card use after an acquaintance allegedly stole her wallet. The case was closed. No suspect. I found 3 more just like it. One in Milan. One in Barcelona. One in Amsterdam. All solo trips. All first class. All paid for using other people's financial data. She wasn't just stealing from me. She was a full-blown international scam artist. And every trip, every spa weekend, every random luxury item she claimed her sister gifted her, they were lies. All of it. And she'd used me, a financial security consultant, to fund and cover her trail. I stared at my monitor for hours, shaking. Not just out of rage, but out of sheer disbelief. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, who held my hand during my father's funeral, who cried at our wedding, she had built an entire second life behind my back. I found her notebook next. Tucked into a false bottom of her jewelry case, behind her old passport. It was small, black, leather-bound. Inside were dozens of credit card numbers, security codes, expiration dates, all in her handwriting. Some belonged to people I knew. Some were complete strangers. Names, dates, amounts. She had logs. Meticulous notes of how she acquired the card data. How long she had access. What she bought. What excuse she gave me. She kept track of the lies. It was a roadmap of betrayal. And at the very end, scribbled in red ink, was one final note. Paris. March 12th to 18th. First class. $60,000 cap. Russell won't notice. Won't notice? She'd written me off. Like I was some clueless husband who wouldn't notice $60,000 gone. Like I was just a resource. A tool. A fool. But I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to ruin her game. She had no idea the bait card she just used was being monitored by a network of financial crime databases. And that her next stop, Paris, was going to be the last time she ever used anyone's money again. They say revenge is best served cold. I say it's best served in court, with timestamps, federal protocols, and a digital trail so airtight that even the best defense attorney wouldn't touch it. After confirming Alicia had used the bait card, I connected the account to every fraud monitoring protocol I knew: internal watch lists, international transaction flags, and even the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network database. She didn't know that when she swiped that card at a boutique in Tampa, she triggered a federal money laundering alert. She was already on the radar and she had no clue. The next day I got a call from an old colleague, Rebecca Torres, a field agent at Fincian. "Russell," she said, "we've flagged one of your monitored accounts for high-volume international purchases." "That yours?" "It's part of a personal investigation," I told her. "Someone close to me is using stolen financial data." There was a long pause. "You running a sting operation on your wife?" "I'm documenting unauthorized access. Every dollar. Every destination." By that point, Alicia was already booked for Paris. First class. Departing Saturday morning. She told me it was a spa trip with Vanessa again. I just smiled and asked if she needed help packing. When she left, I gave her a kiss on the forehead. Told her to have fun. I knew it would be the last free breath she'd take for a long time. Back at home, I set everything into motion. I contacted Agent Torres again. Sent her the full transaction logs, the notebook scans, the IP address history. Each entry in the bait account was tagged with precise GPS and merchant metadata. By the second day of her trip, Alicia had spent over $40,000 on that bait card. High-end hotel suites, jewelry, designer handbags, spa appointments in the 7th arrondissement. She even bought me a gift, a Rolex I never asked for, with my own trap card. She called that evening from her luxury suite, sipping champagne, her voice sparkling through the phone. "Paris is everything, Russ," she giggled. "I've never felt more alive. Vanessa says hi." Funny. Vanessa had called me that afternoon, asking why Alicia hadn't answered her texts in 2 weeks. By day 3, Agent Torres called me with an update. "Russell, we're escalating this." "What do you mean?" "This isn't just fraud anymore. Her spending pattern has set off red flags across multiple international finance networks. She's being flagged for potential money laundering. If she tries to return to the US with these items in her possession and no proof of legitimate income, she's in serious trouble." She paused. "Are you ready for what happens next?" I nodded. "I didn't trap her, Rebecca." She walked into it. "I just made sure the door was open. That night I cleaned the house. It felt ceremonial, stripping away every piece of her. Every framed picture, every scented candle, every floral robe still hanging on the bathroom hook. I laid out all the evidence on my desk like an investigator preparing for trial. Screenshots, itemized logs, recordings, and the black notebook filled with other people's credit cards. By the end of the week, her total theft from the bait account reached $59,700. Nearly every cent was accounted for, and she had unwittingly documented all of it herself. Saturday morning, I got the final call from Torres. "Customs and Border Protection has been notified. When she lands, she'll go through secondary screening. We'll be waiting." All I had to do was sit back and wait. Sunday evening. 6:12 p.m. I stood by the window of my home office, sipping coffee from the mug Alicia had given me for our 3rd anniversary, back when her smile meant something real. Outside, the Arizona sunset glowed orange. Peaceful. Deceptive. At that very moment, her plane was touching down at Tampa International. She just spent 6 days in Paris like a queen, dining at Michelin-star restaurants, sipping $300 wine, buying heels that cost more than my car payment, all with money she thought I'd never miss. Except this time I was watching everything. At 6:31 p.m. my phone buzzed. "Agent Torres. She's in customs. Secondary inspection just started. We'll call you if she tries to claim it was authorized." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. And then I waited. 15 minutes later, another call. She brought back over $40,000 worth of merchandise. Handbags, watches, custom perfume, high-end jewelry. When we asked about the source of funds, she said, verbatim, "My husband said it was fine." "And you told them?" I said we'd verify it. "So, was it fine, Russell?" I walked over to my desk and looked down at the notebook. Her handwriting. Her crime ledger. I didn't hesitate. I never authorized a single dollar. She stole it. There was silence on the line for a beat. "Copy that," Torres said. "We're proceeding with detainment." I stared at my phone for a long while after that. You'd think I'd feel triumphant, vindicated, even relieved. But mostly, I just felt hollow. Because no matter how right I was, no matter how careful the plan, it still hurt. I didn't marry a thief. At least I didn't think I had. But the woman walking off that plane in designer heels and a smug little smirk? That wasn't Alicia anymore. That was someone else. Someone dangerous. And now she was about to find out what real consequences looked like. At 7:45 p.m., my phone buzzed again. She's been officially arrested. She had a second set of cards in her purse. Names and account numbers not registered to you or your household. We're adding additional charges for possession of stolen financial information. Pause. You should know she was carrying your name too. Another card under Russell M. Jennings. Expired account. Looks like she was planning to use it as cover if things got questioned. Of course she was. Always one lie stacked on another. At 8:30 p.m. an unknown number rang my phone. I didn't answer at first. Then curiosity won. "Russell?" came the voice on the other end. Hoarse. Shaky. Familiar. "Alicia. I'm allowed one call," she said. "There's been a huge mistake. They think I stole the money. But I told them you said it was fine." My voice was calm. "Alicia, I never said it was fine. You used stolen financial data. You used me." No, you don't understand. I was going to pay it back. You planned this for months. You used our marriage as a front. And you didn't just steal from me. You stole from strangers. From your job. From people who trusted you." Silence. Then, "You set me up, didn't you?" Her voice cracked. "I gave you rope," I said coldly. "You decided to hang yourself. You don't mean this." "I do. Save your breath. You'll need it, for your lawyer." I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to her voice without a pane of bulletproof glass between us. The morning after Alicia's arrest, my doorbell rang at 8 a.m. sharp. It was Agent Torres. She wasn't alone. Behind her was a federal investigator I hadn't met before, badge around his neck, a folder thick with documents in his hand. "We need to talk," Torres said, her voice heavier than usual. They stepped inside and I poured coffee for all of us. As we sat around my dining table, the air turned colder by the second. "Russell," she began, "we've been combing through Alicia's digital and financial footprint. What we found, it's a lot bigger than we thought." I sat still. I already had suspicions. "Paris wasn't her first run," Torres continued. "She's taken at least 4 international trips in the last 2 years, all first class. All under the pretense of traveling with her sister. But her sister confirmed she hasn't traveled with Alicia since a bachelorette weekend in 2021. "Where'd the money come from?" I asked. The mail agent opened the folder. She had access to customer payment data from the boutique she worked at. She photographed credit cards. Wrote down expiration dates. We found over a dozen victims, customers, co-workers, even her former landlord. We also uncovered 2 fake PayPal accounts she created in your name and in your company's name. I froze. "In my company's name?" Torres nodded. "Yeah. She had started funneling charges through one of your old LLCs. The IRS already opened a preliminary investigation before this even started. She just got lucky you caught her first." I stared at the folder. And suddenly it clicked. All those times she insisted I delay closing my consulting firm, just in case. All those business expenses she asked me to write off. She wasn't just stealing from people. She was building an entire criminal identity network. In my name. And she would have pinned everything on me if it went south. That Rolex receipt? That luxury travel? If I hadn't planted the bait card and gathered proof, she could have easily argued I was the one behind it all. She was planning a full financial identity hijacking. And it would have worked. Until I turned the tables. 2 days later, I sat in the back row of the federal courtroom as Alicia entered, wrists shackled, dressed in an oversized orange jumpsuit that didn't match her fake designer tan. She looked smaller. Not physically but spiritually. Like the wind had been knocked out of her, and no amount of shopping bags could make her feel powerful again. Her court-appointed attorney stood and began the usual performance. "Your Honor, the defendant is a first-time offender with strong community ties. She was not attempting to flee the country but rather—" "Objection," the U.S. attorney cut in. "We have evidence of at least 4 previous international trips using fraudulent means. This was not a one-time incident. It was part of an ongoing pattern of theft, identity fraud, and money laundering across borders. The judge wasn't impressed by Alicia's tears. Bail? Denied. Later that week, Agent Torres called me. You saved more than just your finances, Russell. You might have saved a dozen victims from being drained dry. And I'll be honest, if you hadn't laid that trap, she might have pinned it all on you. She was setting it up for months. I sat down, gripping the phone tightly. She loved the idea of your job, your knowledge, your expertise, Torres continued. And she used every piece of it against you. That hurt. More than I wanted to admit. I went home that night, opened the last drawer of Alicia's vanity, and found something I hadn't noticed before. A sealed envelope. Inside was a card. On the front, in cursive gold lettering, it read, "To my brilliant husband on our anniversary." Inside just one line. "Thank you for trusting me with your heart and your pins." There was a lipstick kiss on the bottom right corner. Mocking. Calculated. Like she always thought she'd get away with it. But she didn't. Because in the end, the one thing Alicia never understood was that the man she married didn't just build systems that tracked fraud. He built traps. And hers snapped shut the moment she stepped onto that plane. The sentencing came exactly 3 months after Alicia's arrest. The courtroom was colder than usual that day. Not in temperature but in energy. The kind of cold that comes from a final reckoning. I sat alone in the gallery. Vanessa didn't come. Neither did Alicia's parents. Maybe they were too ashamed. Maybe they finally saw who she really was. Or maybe, like me, they realized Alicia had burned every bridge she ever built. The prosecution laid it all out for the court. Over $400,000 in stolen funds over 18 months. The use of stolen identities and financial data from at least 14 individuals. International transactions that triggered federal money laundering investigations. An elaborate scheme involving a boutique, a fake LLC, and attempted identity theft of her own husband. The defense tried to play the sympathy card. She was under pressure to keep up with an image, her lawyer said. She felt she didn't measure up to the standards of those around her. It began as small, impulsive acts and spiraled into something she couldn't control. But even the judge wasn't buying it. "Ms. Jennings," Judge Aileen Rousseau said firmly, "this court finds your actions deliberate, sustained, and deeply manipulative. You exploited the people closest to you. You weaponized your marriage. And you showed no signs of stopping until you were caught." And then, she gave the sentence. 8 years in federal prison. 3 years supervised release. Restitution of $400,000. Alicia barely reacted. She just stared forward. Cool. So, maybe she finally realized the game was over. Afterward, Agent Torres handed me a small manila envelope as I walked outside the courthouse. "Here's your portion of the restitution, $60,000 returned from the honeypot account," she said. "The rest is being pursued through asset seizure. That includes jewelry, designer goods, and the car she tried to lease in your name." I nodded numb. "I hope you take some peace from this," she added. I didn't reply. Not because I disagreed. But because peace doesn't come the day the door slams shut behind someone like Alicia. It comes slowly. With time. 6 months later I moved out of the house. Too many memories in the walls. Too many ghosts in the kitchen, the bedroom, the hallway where I caught her going through my wallet one too many times. I took a new job, head of security for a cybersecurity firm in Denver. I don't talk about Alicia there. Not because I'm ashamed. But because some people don't deserve to be part of your future, even as a footnote. Still, sometimes when I'm alone late at night I find myself staring at old wedding photos I never deleted. I see a version of her I thought was real. A version of myself I barely recognize, trusting, open, blind. But I don't feel rage anymore. Not hate. Just clarity. Because in the end she didn't just steal my money. She gave me something too. A lesson I will never forget. Sometimes the person you love most is the one who's been quietly planning your downfall. And the best revenge? Is watching them fall into the hole they dug for you. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.